Hey PMP aspirants, I know that you are struggling to pass your PMP exam and you have taken your training long ago, but you don't remember anything. Don't worry, I got you covered. Let me explain you in a very simplified way the whole project management, especially the predictive one, that how does it start, how the processes move, and how the project close, and how we do an integrated way of project management. So let's begin. That we all know that project always start with one of the main document called as project charter. So project charter is actually created by sponsor, but it can be worked by the project manager. But final approval will always be given by the sponsor. So the signing authority of this document is actually sponsor. Charter contains the high-level scope of work, high-level assumptions, constraints, major milestones of the project, project exit criteria, project exception criteria, and most importantly, project manager name and authority, and initial list of stakeholders. Once project charter is issued and you become the project manager, you will go to the PMO to get or acquire the required resources. While you become the project manager, your first task is to prepare the stakeholder register. So you will try to identify as many stakeholders as you can because you cannot identify all the stakeholders during the first phase of the project. So stakeholders can be added later on with the help of change request and as per required whenever the new phase is started, whenever old phase is completed, or whenever a new stakeholder is added or removed, we have to keep our stakeholder register ready. A stakeholder register contains the names of the stakeholders and most importantly, their contact information, their needs and expectations from the project, and their role and their influence on the project. Once you become the project manager, and if you are joining from the beginning, you will create this document. But if you are joining in the middle of the project, then you will review this document. Once you have project charter and a stakeholder register ready, then you will start working on the project planning. The first thing which you will start working is actually the project management plan. Project management plan is a comprehensive document which contains 9 management plans, 3 baseline, scope baseline, schedule baseline, cost baseline, change management plan, configuration management plan, and all the other relevant project management documents. So the first thing which we start working in project management plan collaboration is we prepare the management plans of each knowledge area. There are 10 knowledge areas: project integration management, project scope management, project schedule management, project cost management, project quality management, project risk management, project resource management, project procurement management, and project stakeholder engagement. So every knowledge area will have their own management plans along with the requirements management plan. Management plans are actually the approaches you will take, the strategy you will use to prepare the project management plan, and how these things will be managed and executed and controlled throughout the project. Once you have the management plans ready, then based upon the management plans, the first one was the requirements management plan. So based upon requirements management plan, we will collect requirements from the stakeholders with the help of tools and techniques like brainstorming, generating ideas, focus group with the relevant stakeholders, or they could be the interview one-to-one, or we can use different wireframing methods or storyboarding methods to collect the requirements. Once requirements are available, so there will be so many requirement documentations, we'll place them in a document called as requirement traceability matrix. Once we have the requirement traceability matrix available, which contains on the left side the objectives of the requirement, and on the right side, we will have the final test cases. We will collect product requirement, project requirement, stakeholder requirement, business requirement, quality requirement, functional requirement, non-functional requirement, domain requirement, transition requirement to ensure that we are all covered and as much amount of information is available. Otherwise, we'll be working with progressive elaborations. Once we have all the requirements, we will define a scope. So we will have the project scope statement, the detailed one. It will contain the project scope, product scope, project acceptance criteria, exclusion criteria, and inclusion criteria, and how the product scope will be validated. Once the scope is ready, then a work breakdown structure is created, which will contain the work packages and planning packages for the project. So in those work breakdown structures, we will have control accounts, we will have work packages or planning packages. And along with the WBS, we will have the WBS dictionary. which contains the activities and the details who will do those activities or work packages and what are the assumptions, constraints, and risk associated with them. Once we have scope statement, WBS, and WBS dictionary, it means it will cover as a scope baseline once it is approved. Once we have the WBS created, then we will start defining activities from work breakdown structure dictionary. Once we will define activities, if we have full information available, we can fully define them. Otherwise, we will take it as a planning package on rolling wave planning. Once we will define activities, then we have to sequence them based upon their precedence relationship. We have finished to start, which means when activity 1 will finish, then activity 2 can start. We have start to start, which means 2 activities should start together, which means we have another one finish to finish, which means 2 activities should finish together. And we have start to finish, which means when activity B will finish, then activity can start, A can start. Once sequencing them, then we will have our estimations. So to estimate the time, cost, and resources, we have 4 estimation techniques, analogous from past, parametric by mass or stats. We have bottom up with the help of WBS or detailed estimates, and we have 3-point estimation if we have uncertainties. So we can use simple average like O plus M plus P divided by 3 or O plus 4M plus P divided by 6. Or if it is a standard deviation, we can take O minus P plus divided by 6. So based upon that, once we have the estimations, we are in the shape of schedule development. So we can develop the schedule on 2 methods like critical path method, which is the shortest. In the least route, you can have the project duration completed, or we can have a critical chain method where we can allocate buffers for the contingencies. Once the schedule is developed, at the same time, we'll be estimating the cost with the same estimation models, analogous, parametric, bottom-up, or 3-point estimations. And to develop the budget, we can use the rough order magnitude, which is minus 25 to plus 75% correct. Or we can go with the phase estimates, or we can go with the definitive or budget estimates, which are minus 5 to plus 10% accurate. So we have scope baseline, schedule baseline, cost baseline also. And in the meanwhile, all these things will be done actually in coordinates, in collaboration. So we'll be identifying the risk, that how the risk will be identified, and they will be placing them in a document called as risk register, which contains the risk owner, categories of the risk, their qualitative, their quantitative, and their responses like accept, escalate, or we can avoid, we can share, we can enhance, or we can mitigate, or we can transfer, or we can share accordingly. So enhance for the positive, we have share for the positive, and we have accept and escalate for both of them, and we have avoid, mitigate, or transfer for the negative responses. So once we have these responses available, then we can get the approval from the sponsor along with the project management plan once it is getting approved. We'll be identifying the risk, performing qualitative as a relative weighting, quantitative as a numerical form if it is required because it's an option process, and we'll be planning the risk responses. Then we will be estimating the resources also at the same time, which will be reflecting in our baselines. Will be then, once approved, we will be monitoring and controlling the project while we are executing the deliverables. So while executing and monitoring and controlling, we'll make sure that we control the scope for any gold plating or scope creeps. We'll make sure that we validate the scope once it is completed and verified from the quality control and third-party inspection. We'll be controlling the schedule with the help of the project schedules, like we have the earned value analysis and so on. Similarly, we'll be controlling the budget with the help of earned value analysis and forecasting. We'll be managing the quality to ensure that project have the required quality standards available to produce the required quality of the product. And ultimately, we'll be controlling the quality where we'll be verifying the deliverable from our quality control department as well as third party inspection. Once it is completed and while we are doing the project, we might get the risk occurred. So we will have a risk action owner nominated in the risk register. So risk action owner will be implementing the risk responses throughout the project and updating the risk register accordingly and monitoring the risk for any emergent risk or for any minor risk which might become the major risk and updating the risk register. We know that we acquire resources based upon just-in-time method. So we do not acquire resources if we don't need them. So we will acquire resources. Project manager do not normally hire or fire resources. They acquire resources from the functional manager or PMO. When we acquire resources, so we have to develop the team with the help of the very commonly known as blue statement ladder, which contains 5 stages: forming, storming, norming, performing, adjourning. Forming means everyone is excited. Storming, they have their reservations. Norming, their reservations are resolved and they're ready to work. Performing, they are working as a cohesive unit, and adjourning, going back to their places. When you will develop the team, they will be ready to work. We have to manage them. And in managing, we have to manage with our expert power. If we have expertise, we can reward them. We can penalize them, or we can use formal power, which is like chair power, or we can use referent power, like we are liked by the stakeholders, or our decisions are accepted, or we are the neighbor or the relative of the CEOs. While managing the team, we'll be managing the conflicts also. So we need to understand the level of conflicts. It's level 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Level 1 is a simple disagreement, and level 5 is the last one where you cannot do anything. Just we can replace the resource or complete the task as soon as possible. To resolve the conflicts, we have 5 strategies. We can avoid it. We don't want to deal with it because the situation is emotionally charged. We can smooth or accommodate it, which means we will discuss those controversial points out of the meeting or out of the discussions. We'll take them offline. We will have compromise when both parties are going back from their positions, or sometime I have to use my force or my power to force my decision upon them. Or the best technique is collaborate, which is a win-win situation where we will collaborate, we will take initiative to solve the problem. And we will lead the team, manage the team by resolving their conflicts. We'll be motivating the team with that by following Maslow theory or McGregor theory of we have Herzberg theory and we have McGregor theory of X and Y. We have achievement theory and we have expectancy theory. So we have those details available in our project management trainings. We'll be leading the team, we'll be motivating the team, we'll be resolving their conflicts, and we'll be controlling the resources, man, materials, not man's, materials, and machines, because we are managing the mans. We'll also be doing the communication based upon nowadays on progress reportings, and we'll be using nowadays information radiators like burn down chart, burn up charts, and our task board or dashboards, and controlling the communications, which means everyone is receiving the right information at the right time. For the procurement, when the procurement is approved, then we'll start working on procurements. We will select the sellers based upon their prices, based upon their support, based upon their past projects performances, and maybe they are the sole source, like they are the only one available. While we are conducting the procurement, we'll make the agreements. They could be the fixed price contracts when a scope of work is available, or they could be the cost reimbursable or time and material contract when a scope of work is not fully available. So we can use those techniques, or we can use nowadays agile contracting as per the agile projects. Once agreements are signed, we need to control the procurement as per the agreement. If the seller is not doing the contract as they should, so they are breaching the contracts, and in that context, if we have mentioned, then the contract can be terminated, or the clause of the contract can be terminated, or if there are any changes, they should be done with the help of change request. And during all the time, we have to keep our stakeholders engaged, manage them with our power skills, with our leadership skills, with our influential skills, with our conflict management skills, so with our persuasive skills, so we can engage them, and we can use SEAM like stakeholder engagement assessment metrics, that who are unaware, resistant, neutral, supportive, or leading, what are their current engagement and desired engagements, and monitor their engagements accordingly. So we'll be keep doing the work accordingly, and once we have the changes, so it will look like this. So project management plan is approved. So we will do the work accordingly. We will managing the project knowledge and the help of lesson learned. So if any risk became issue, we will log into the issue log, and then ultimately how it was resolved. We will keep noting them down in the project knowledge, or what we call it, in the knowledge register or lesson learned register. While doing the work, we'll be performing the monitoring and controlling of the work. And then if there are any situations for changes, it has to be done with the help of integrated change control, which means that stakeholders will submit the change request, project manager will evaluate and examine the impact, submit to the change control board. If approved, we'll update the baselines. If not approved, we will send it back and document in the change log that it was rejected. Or if it was deferred, we will resubmit it again to the change control board and a sponsor for the validations. Once all the work is completed, then we will close the procurement, then phase, and then project. We will collect the lesson learned, we'll prepare the final report, we'll distribute the final reports, we will archive the project documents, we'll perform the supplier evaluations also and archive it, and then we will release the team, and then we will release ourselves as a project manager if there are no financial or legal claims exist. For any claims, we will send them. If they're legal claims, we have to close them. If you think that they are not legal or they are not aligned with the scope of work or project management plan, you will ask them to go to the claims department. They will handle your claims. And that's how the project management works for phases, for all phases, and for all predictive projects. My name is Dr. Muhammad Imran. I hope I have given you enough information to restart your PMP journey and get yourself PMP certified as soon as possible. If you still feel difficulty, you can join my upcoming batch, and I'm glad to assist you, coach you, and mentor you in my upcoming PMP training exam preparation. Thank you very much.